The Nigerian police would be faced with a comprehensive reform process. Now, the acting Inspector General of Police has said, Mohammed Adamu said the effect of the reforms would be felt from the force headquarters down to the zonal and state commands across Nigeria. And speaking at his inaugural conference with high-ranking officers of the force in Abuja on Monday, the acting IGP ordered the immediate decentralization of the Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, also known as FSARS. He also set up special election investigation teams that will be tasked with the exclusive functions of taking in custody and undertake detailed investigation of all arrested electoral offenders across the country.
The operation of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which is currently centralized at the force headquarters, is hereby decentralized. All quasi-investigation and operation units, including Special Investigation Panel, Special Tactical Squad, or any other such teams under whatever name, are hereby disbanded.
All right, we have the Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Police Force, Frank Mba, joining us from our Abuja studio. Frank Mba, good morning. It's good to have you join us now.
Yeah, good morning. It's my privilege being here with you.
Thank you so much. All right, let's begin this way. There has been this suspicion, before we even get to the issue of the current move to reform the police, this seeming distrust between the public and the police. You have heard that complaint even when you were in Lagos and other parts of the country. I know it's not new to you. Now that all of you are at the helm of the police now, what is the force doing to really bridge that gap between the distrust that has really hampered policing in Nigeria?
Okay, first of all, let me acknowledge the fact that indeed we have significant distrust out there. Let me also acknowledge the fact that indeed there are problems out there, and we know it. We can't pretend to be living in the Mars or living in another planet or living elsewhere other than Nigeria. You must realize that first and foremost, before becoming police officers, we are Nigerians. We have our brothers and sisters out there in the streets. We live within our people. We interact with our people. We know where the shoe is pinching, and we are set to actually fix those holes. Our approach is going to be simple. We will serve Nigerians diligently. We will serve Nigerians passionately. We will serve Nigerians sincerely. We will tell them where the problems, when we have problems, we will tell them. When we err, we will admit our mistakes and our errors and apologize and seek not to repeat such mistakes. And we continue to work in partnership with the people. I think one of the major thrusts of the new IGP is the desire to actually create a police force that will be people-friendly, a police force that will be people-centered, a police force that will not just work for the people, but work with the people. And I sincerely believe that what Nigerians need is just sincere leadership. And if the IGP provides that sincere leadership, and he's poised to do so, he's determined to do so, we'll win back the confidence, the trust, the support, and the partnership of Nigerians.
With what you've just said, that really is very reassuring for a lot of Nigerians. But as far as people are concerned, time will tell. And it seems the new IGP, though in acting capacity, is hitting the ground running. He's been, putting a lot of things on ground already, disbanding of FSARS and, of course, reversing the removal of the CP in Lagos here and all of that. And, of course, he's been advised to avoid some of the pitfalls of his predecessor. To what extent is he going to retain some of the policies or moves by his predecessor? And, of course, to what extent really will we see a totally new police force?
I think you will realize that governance is a continuum. The current IGP Mohammed Abubakar Adamu, is the 20th Indigenous Inspector General of Police, Nigerian Police Force. The implication of this is that before him, there have been about 19 other Indigenous Inspector Generals of Police. He is coming on board. We are not expecting that he's coming in to scrap everything that his predecessors have done over the years. What he intends to do and what he's already doing is look at past policies, look at those things that have worked and worked effectively, try to improve and consolidate on them, look at those areas that have not worked, or those things that were not properly driven, or those policies that were not people-oriented, and then begin to tinker with them, begin to reform them, begin to improve on them in order to have a police force that Nigerians will be proud of, a police force that will be owned by Nigerians. We want to return the ownership of Nigeria, of the force to the people. The police ought to be for the people and the people for the police. The difference between the police and perhaps other security agencies is that the police is the police forces ought to be the closest, or ought to be institutions that are closest to the people. And
yes.
So we just want to restore that culture of working with the people, working for the people, and running with the people. And that's exactly what we'll be doing. So I don't expect the IGP and his policies clearly, his policy thrusts are not just to come out there and scrap everything his predecessors have done, everything his predecessors have done, but rather select those things that are wonderful, those things that are positive, those things that have added and are still adding value to the dynamics of policing Nigeria, and then begin to rejig those ones that have not been as effective as we all want them to be.
All right, Frank, one thing we have heard stories from Nigerians, very unpalatable stories of Nigerians as to what the impunity carried out by FSARS in the past. Now that it's been somewhat disbanded and decentralized, let me say, to different states. Now, the IG has given an order, but the IG is one person who is going to be up there in Abuja. When it comes to the different 36 states where the SARS is going to exist, what is going to be new about the modus operandi and the way SARS is going to engage? Because the point that it is one thing to administratively decentralize, train them up, is another thing to imbibe the spirit of policing. How would you ensure that differently?
Honestly, I don't think I got all your questions, but I think the crux of your gist is the issue of the ongoing reforms going on with the SARS, with the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. First of all, let me say this. The reforms are going to be holistic. What the IGP has done is to take the first step. And the first step is aimed at restoring order and constitutionality. Our constitution is very clear that the command and control of the police in Nigeria shall be under the Inspector General of Police. In addition, that section 215, subsection 3, goes on to say that every police contingent stationed in a state shall be under the command and control of the Commissioner of Police in charge of that state, of course, subject to the overall supervision and control of the IGP. So the issue of decentralizing SARS and returning the command and control of SARS operatives to the sitting commissioners of police in the 36 states of the Federation and FCT is actually a constitutional issue. And once you get it wrong with law, once you begin to operate outside the confines of the law, you are already taking the wrong step. So, and that's why the IGP needed to do that very quickly. Having said that, the IGP also intends to meet with relevant stakeholders, the civil society organizations, the human rights community, the Nigerian Bar Association, and other stakeholders, traditional rulers. He also intends to be working with the Ministry of Interior, the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Police Service Commission, and other key government departments that are involved in internal security arrangements. And by the time we finish the reforms, I believe Nigerians will be very proud of what we're trying to do. I can understand the apprehension, I can understand the concerns, I can understand the fears, looking at the history of SARS, looking at all the anomalies out there, looking at the clear brutality that some of our personnel have actually exhibited on the streets. But these are consigns to the new IGP. He intends to bring back law and order. Okay. He intends to respect the fundamental rights of Nigerians, and he intends to actually bring this into the mainstream of policing. All right. We'll not just be carrying out cosmetic reforms, we'll be carrying out deep-seated and deep-rooted reforms. There will be training and retraining. There will be rearrangement in weapon handling and so many other aspects of SARS operations.
Okay, moving on now. Another thing that Nigerians are very concerned about, this is an election year. And, of course, the acting IG, Mohammed Adamu, has said that he will be fair to all parties. But how will you guarantee, can you tell Nigerians how you're going to ensure that neutrality will be brought to bear on the part of the police as far as the election is concerned?
Okay, let me start by saying this very clearly, that the Nigerian police under the leadership of IGP M.A. Adamu will be politically neutral. I can't stress this enough. We will remain apolitical. We will remain neutral. Our loyalty is to the Constitution. Our loyalty is to the laws of the Federation. Our loyalty is to the people of Nigeria. It is on this basis, or rather on these premises, that we will be operating. The IGP has said this and will continue to repeat this, that we will provide a level playing field for all political actors. We will provide sufficient and adequate security for everyone that is involved in this election, whether you are an aspirant or candidates, or rather candidates standing in for the election, or whether you're a political activist, whether you are a staff or a worker with with INEC, whether you are an election observer or monitor, we will provide adequate security for all and sundry.
But you know that for that to happen,
one of our core mandates.
Yes.
We are promising Nigerians we will not fail and we will not falter.
Yeah, but
we will work with other relevant security agencies to deliver on this core mandate. And we promise Nigerians, and we continue to say it again and again, that you will see a peaceful, crisis and violence-free elections in the next few weeks.
Okay, well, it's one thing to, promise that, But the thing is, how do you go about that if the average policeman is not necessarily well catered for in terms of, you know, his welfare and all other things that will make policing, you know, the way it should be, in such a way that when they are given offers, they cannot refuse, that they will actually refuse those offers from politicians. It's one thing to have, you know, make those promises. It's another thing to be able to actually keep them. How will you ensure that the average policeman will look money in the face, will look at the politicians in the face and say, you know, go with your money. I'm here to protect the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians.
Part of the things we've already done and which we'll continue to do is training and retraining. Beyond training and retraining and preparing our personnel adequately for the tasks ahead, the force is also making provisions for allowances, for dry rations, and for other things that are designed to actually take care of personnel that will be deployed for election duties. We will also, on our own, be sending out officers who are also going to be monitoring and policing the policemen who are also deployed for these special duties. The Police Service Commission also, I don't speak for them, but I'm aware that the Police Service Commission, which is a constitutional body charged with providing oversight over our function, will also be out there monitoring and providing necessary oversight over our personnel that will be out there doing the work. We'll also be keeping eyes on the politicians. We are interested in making sure we reduce to the barest minimum incidents of vote buying. Of course, you understand that that's one of the biggest challenges we are having this time around. Is a big challenge because most of the time vote buying don't take place in the open. When two adults or two consenting adults goes into a closet and decide to carry out such transaction, you may certainly not know. But as much as possible, we will be working round the clock to nip that crime and do everything we can to actually reduce it to the barest minimum.
All right.
We will.
Let's put you on hold, Frank Mba. We'll come back to you shortly. Abosede Omoyi, our correspondent, or reporter rather, is on the streets this morning to speak with Nigerians on the operation of the Nigeria Police Force. He's around Ikeja right now. Abosede, good morning again. You left the studio and you're there on the street right now. What are Nigerians saying when it comes to the performance and the perception of the police and how they are ready to either support or otherwise of the police?
The heart of Lagos, and of course different views coming from different people would give them opportunity to express themselves, so we can hear directly what they think about reforms in the Nigeria police, their expectations and what they've seen so far. I have a Lagosian join me here. We're talking police reforms. What do you make of goings on in the police force at this time, and what more do you expect?
For me, in this country, I love police because there's no security in the country, no peace all over the world. So, if the police is good, it's from federal government. If police is not good, it's from federal government. They always tell police collect bribe, police collect bribe. If they okay their barrack or they okay their job, they won't collect bribe. So, and the many things collapsed. In their barrack, they are building, they need to resort to build another house for them in the barrack. And again, they need to take care of them in anything in their life because they have signed their life to government. So government need to take care of them. So if they don't want anything that they should collect bribe, they should do all these things. They should put them in order.
All right.
Because it happens in other countries.
All right, thank you very much.
Police in order, they are doing well.
All right. Thank you very much for your opinion. Okay, so we hope that that would happen.
In anything,
All right. Thank you very much. Let's get another Lagosian to speak on this matter. So tell us about your view about reforms in the Nigeria police, what you've experienced, and what you look forward to.
Yes, it is a welcome development. It's overdue. The reforms, Nigerian police reform, or Nigerian police, they have a body which is a Police Service Commission that oversees the welfare, the attitude, the approach of Nigerian police force. And over the decades, there have been lapses in Nigerian police. One, in the cadre of their recruitment. The police, the people they recruit, one, they need educated graduates. They need to work on their human resources. They need to work on their intellect. Because now, this new IG is coming out with a police reform. Once we witnessed when there was a police IG that took away all the police from the roadblocks. What happened? After a while, they came back. The same thing. How is this implement? We are talking of implementation of these reforms. Can it last long? Look at the welfare of the police. We are talking of police bribe and other things. Or if they are done very well, if in their remuneration, their salaries and their welfare, it will be okay. Look at what is happening in the unit. Okay.
Okay, so you hope that there will be better welfare package for them.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Well, yes, views of Lagosians there on what they expect from the police, what they've experienced, and the expectations in the days ahead.
Right.
Okay, so much from the streets there, so much to talk about, so much to expect from Nigerians.
At least one thing that Nigerians do agree on is if you have really, I mean, like they say, every society deserves the kind of government it gets. You could say the same for the police. We deserve the kind of police we get. One of the respondents there said, if government takes care of those people, their welfare and all of that,
I like the way he put it. He said the police officers have signed their lives to the government.
Yes.
Now, Frank, let's bring you back in here. One of the issues, one of those on the street raised is the sustenance of this seeming reforms and restructuring of the police, as the case may be. Now, when it comes to FSAS, I have to let me narrow it down there now. It's one of the issues on the front burner. If FSAS has been decentralized, for instance, after this dispensation of Mohammed Adamu, as the case may be, another AIG can come up and then centralize it again. So when it comes to giving legal backing to some of these reforms and this structure, what is the thoughts around that to sustain what and institutionalize all of these proposed reforms going on?
Okay. My response to that is that most of the reforms the current IG will be carrying out will be backed by force orders. And when a reform is rooted in the law, it is difficult for another incoming IG or your successor to just come and set it aside. Like I've also said earlier, policing is a continuum. Leadership is a continuum. And when a leader comes in and he says something that is good, something that is almost impeccable, you don't go about just changing it for the sake of changing. And so I am very positive that the kind of reforms IGP Adamu will be carrying out, and because it's going to be all encompassing and because he will be consulting very widely, I don't think these reforms will be short-lived. I think those reforms will be enduring. You need to also understand where this IGP is coming from. If you look at his background, his education, his work experience, he's a graduate of Ahmadu Bello University. He has a master's degree from University of Portsmouth, where he studied international criminal justice system. He has worked in virtually all parts of Nigeria. He started out his career at Ngbidi in Imo State, where he worked as an administrative officer and later as a divisional crime officer. He has worked as Zone 6 in Calabar, where he was the officer in charge of general investigations. He later moved on to 4CID Alagbo, where he established himself as a super detective. He has worked as the officer in charge of the peacekeeping and training department in Abuja, Force Headquarters Abuja, where he superintended over everything concerning peacekeeping in Nigeria, their recruitment, their training, their deployment. He worked with relevant stakeholders such as United Nations, development partners, and the international community in ensuring that our policemen who are on foreign mission excel. He has been he later became the commissioner of police, the deputy commissioner of police in charge of administration in Ekiti State. Later, the deputy commissioner of police in charge of state CID in Kaduna State, and eventually the commissioner of police in charge of Enugu State.
Okay, so
on his elevation to the rank of AIG, he became the AIG in charge of Zone 5, Benin, covering Edo, Delta, and Bayelsa states. Eventually, he moved from there to National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, where he was a directing staff. At the international level, he started out as a specialized investigator attached to Interpol in Lyon.
Right.
He has so much experience.
It's a long list.
He will be tapping into these experiences.
Yes.
All right. It's a long list of...
It's actually good to know that he does come with a lot of pedigree and his resume is quite intimidating. But let's even go back to the issue. You raised an issue earlier about, part of the reforms.
Before then, let's go to Port Harcourt. Yes. Let's still hear from the people there.
Yes.
Uche Okoro, our correspondent, is standing by on the streets in Port Harcourt to find out the people's impression of the police force like we did here in Lagos. Uche Okoro, good morning. It's good to have you join us now. Talk to us about what indigents of Port Harcourt are saying about the police.
Good morning to you, Mike and Ngozi. Well, I'm in Port Harcourt. It's mixed feelings for the people of Port Harcourt. I cannot say that everyone in Port Harcourt hates the police or everyone in Port Harcourt loves the police. It's mixed feelings. You recall that sometime last year, about I think June, July last year, there were a series of protests in Port Harcourt, protests for the police, protests against the police. You would also recall the SARS must go protest, SARS must stay protest. Most of these protests are happening maybe a day after each other. Some are happening on the same day. Some are even happening side by side. So it's mixed feelings for the people of Port Harcourt. But I have with me here one of the residents of Port Harcourt who will just tell me what he thinks about the police. Good morning to you, sir. Could you just come this way? All right, just introduce yourself quickly and tell me what do you think about the Nigerian police.
Okay, my name is Confidence Apinori. I cannot say that actually the police are underperforming concerning the farmers and the health crisis. No, everybody in Nigeria has not been secured. Sometimes last year the Vice President said they have overhauled the FSAS. No, how can a uniformed man be moving around the road, without his name placed on his uniform? You don't know. You cannot differentiate a security man and a terrorist. You just carry arms around. Everybody in the country is at risk. So we just pray that the acting IG is going to put things in place for things to work well. Because concerning the police, it needs,
they're not doing a very good job, you think?
At all.
All right, you just heard from one resident of Port Harcourt here who feels that, there's still room for a lot of improvement in the Nigerian police force.
Leave it there. Thank you very much for your input there from Port Harcourt. Like you said, not everybody hates the police and not everybody loves the police. Frank Mba, now talking about, reforms and the need to bring back professionalism in the police force. And you heard one of the respondents there say, the police is not doing well when it comes to the herdsmen-farmers clashes, talking about security generally. Now, you have about 150 out of 350 police officers deployed to VIPs and all of that. How are you going to manage that situation to actually, achieve some of these reforms that you expect to happen in the police?
I think one of the best way to actually reduce the requests by VIPs in quotes for special police protection is actually to ensure that Nigeria is safe. So one of the things that the current IGP will be doing is to do everything humanly possible to make Nigeria a safer place. By the time our streets are safe, by the time people can move about and do their businesses without fear of being kidnapped or being robbed at random, of terror attacks, naturally, the request for special protections also will begin to drop. Beyond that, the IGP will also be reviewing all deployments that have been made. We are not in a hurry because we don't want to do things that...
Go ahead, please.
All right. Oh, okay.
Mr. Frankenbach.
I think let's leave it here now.
Okay.
It's a good place to leave here. Frankenbach, the police public relations officer of Nigeria Police, thank you so much for talking to us. I know as time goes on, we'll have you up again to talk about different things depending on how Nigerians are reacting. Thank you, Frank, for joining us today.
Thank you. It's